And international investors are piling into the country's stocks, really in an endorsement of President Benigno Aquino's economic policies, making this bull rally even stronger. And in fact, the strongest since Bloomberg really began compiling Philippine index data back in 1987. So far, foreign investors have purchased a net $819 million of these shares in Asia's 12th biggest stock market this year. We're talking 120% more during that same period compared to what you saw in 2011. And that has propped the Philippine Stock Exchange Index up almost, take a look, 15% now, bringing gains since October 2008 to some 285%. That's at least 124 percentage points more than every other bull market in emerging as well as developed nations. The index, well, it turned into Asia's most expensive from the second cheapest some 4 years ago, as rallies in Ayala Land and BPI, which is Bank of the Philippine Islands, really lifted the gauge to 19 times estimated profits. Aquino's efforts to really boost spending on government projects and to really tackle corruption, well, they're convincing investors, foreign investors I'll mention, to really look past the nation's speculative grade credit rating and to focus on really the third fastest growing country in Asia. This is after China and, of course, after Thailand as well. But are shares too expensive? Invesco says yes, by analysts at Samsung Asset Management, and Religare Capital Markets sees further gains. We're talking in the range of some 20% and perhaps even an investment grade ranking sometime this year. Why? Well, an analyst at Samsung Asset says that the focus is on opportunity and growth rather than on contraction caused by deleveraging, and also we're talking about bank recapitalization, fiscal austerity, and why not throw in increased regulatory oversight as well. Well, that is our global outlook for today. I'm Mia Saint.
Nagiti mapanipisa dayong lugluwar nga babay. Nakasawa dahi tinaba na. Ito nagalit na adukurtaran.
O nata, may bagada nga na ba anang damat?
Wow. Dahil nga doon, kadang amuti. Galing ka na radyo dito. Ata di na
Madi. Madi.
Bagbagang kabaan kan ulo nila pang pangyaw ka ba eh. Bagam na din nato lang nagdiag mo na.
Bagam ni Pudno.
Tapos makamot kay bawak mo ka.
No repeke na ba nang ka tatay no ay napanglaw ko tatay no kaya anak ka.
Amo yung matiti babay kilala natin. Ang sili daw mo
Wala, siyempre, amo lang nga lalaki tagpili, pati babae mo na.
Ako na na dyan, iti babae. Noon nagwapo ko na rin ako break.
Wala tatay.
Nang nagwapo ko, kayat ko na naman.
Kasagayang ide, kasagayang pinalasa nga.
Ide.
Wala, mahilig ako sa gwapo nung, ide balasa nga, mahilig ako sa gwapo. Nagwapo nila kay Kundi Baro.
Kaya na, iti gwapo, awang kortana. Iti naman kay ano kortana.
Parikot ko. Guwapo ako, kawanti kwata.
Dan tulatan, nagtrabaho ka mo.
Dalawa ka, gusto mo lang magtrabaho, hindi na rin ang lagward.
Dapat ibalakan ka lang kay taga-alam ka niya. Kung dapat kayat
Kaya, napupuno, brother, sila.
Anya?
Sisa, nung mga asawa ka, pilyong nila ba nang? Mayaman, pilyong nila mayaman.
Mabalin.
Siga, nagwapo ka. Nagwapo ka, kaya nakati babae.
Karkaro no katatay niya, no nagwapo. Kan ba nang
Kaya daw na.
Kaya Pilipina.
Ang kanyak na kuha. Ang nasisita ti kinaba na.
For much of the last decade, BRIC countries have been the world's brightest economic stars. Now developing countries are leading the global economic recovery. They're part of a so-called Next 11, the name given to the group of nations deemed by Goldman Sachs as potential bright spots. Among them is the Philippines, where confidence in the government and a young workforce are helping the economy. Barnaby Lowe reports.
It was a first in the Philippines. tech companies coming together to showcase the hottest and the newest gadgets in the market. About time, according to Yahoo Philippines, organizers of TechnoStorm. Consider this. 400 million text messages are sent every single day in the Philippines. Over 27 million, or close to 30% of the population, are on Facebook. This place is no Silicon Valley, but Filipinos are considered to be one of the most tech-savvy and tech-crazy. And they're also buying.
It's not nearly as big as the Consumer Electronics Show in the US, at least not yet. But organizers are banking on the growing domestic demand for high-tech gadgets and the rising incomes of young Filipinos to make this event a success.
Obviously, it represents a very strong economy. I think a very strong middle class.
In fact, strong consumer spending, not just in the tech industry, has helped shield the Philippine economy from the ongoing crisis in the West. The country may have even benefited from it as outsourcing, particularly in the call center industry, continues to grow. But just how strong is this economy? It's outperformed most of its Asian neighbors by posting a better than expected 7.1% GDP growth in the third quarter of 2012. Year to date, 6.5%, making it one of the fastest growing economies in the world. The market responded to the news with resounding optimism. The stock index hit an all-time high for the 31st time this year, while the Philippine peso appreciated to a level it hasn't reached for 4 years.
We think 7% GDP growth for the full year will be attained. The fourth quarter is a strong quarter given the consumption. It's the holiday season. It's also the highest period for remittances.
Foreign remittances, mainly from overseas Filipino workers, which is expected to exceed $20 billion this year, and for the longest time has been the backbone of the Philippine economy. But as the government tries to keep the momentum going, the hope is that no Filipino will ever have to leave the country in search for a better life. Barnaby Lo, CCTV, Manila.
Just for the sake of continuity or this sort of solidarity at the top.
So this is an isolated case because some people are basically extrapolating, well, maybe this is an indication as to a disagreement within the top
right,
line.
so there is this risk that the two factions at the top are beginning to fight, and we'll see more relatively senior people purged like this. My view is that that's probably less likely.
Okay. So China, you think, is doing okay then, given that you're expecting some mildly positive economic numbers later on today? What kind of growth rate are you expecting for the third quarter? Because some say the third might be worse than the second.
It conceivably could. If you look at sort of base effects and try to figure out seasonal adjustments, I think Q3 growth is going to be around 7.5% plus or minus. So it could be very slightly higher or very slightly lower than Q2. Q4 should be considerably stronger again.
Okay, and best placed economy across the Asia Pacific, leave me with that on this Thursday.
The strongest performing economy in Asia today is the Philippines.
Yeah, is safest as well?
Safest. It's historically at least been very less dependent on the US and Europe, although what's really driving growth today is exports, surprisingly enough, for them.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I mean, don't we have a slowdown taking place in Europe and the US?
Well, it seems to be exports to Japan. I suspect there's something of a Japan outsourcing after the earthquakes last year, the Philippines. They suddenly have discovered $1 billion a month almost in exports in the last 2 or 3 months.
Suddenly discovered it.
For them, it's huge.
Yeah, and